theyeshiva.net.
So we will continue inside, Be'ezer Hashem. We are on page 22. The Maimer Lahavin Mashakasav Bahagoda. On top it says Tzav. The line begins, Chuli Hana V'tainug Nifla. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Around 16 or 15 lines from the bottom, the line starts Chuli Hana V'tainug Nifla. It's the second column. 22, a Yud Aleph, column 4. If that's easier for you. Yud Aleph, column 4. So the definition of Yom Tif is Moishivi Akeres Habayis, Eim Habonim Smecha, Hallelujah. Moishivi Akeres Habayis, the Gemara in Pesachim Kufyut Ches, Taf Kufyut Ches, says, Kechul Dezu Hadara Be'ikri Batim, like the weasel that lives in the Akeres Habayis, in the subterranean layers of the home, underground, hidden away, trying to protect itself from all its various predators, and it hides there, be'ikri batim. That's akeres, habayis, meshivi, it comes back. And as the Talmud of the Ramban in Shushan Soidus explains, that represents the idea of the Malchus, the divine energy, which is, at least from a revealed point of view, detached from its source, and it comes down all the way, manifested and eclipsed by the various shells and husks of life. And when it comes back, it reunites with its source. The Olul connects with the Ilah. From this, the joy emerges. And the metaphor, the example, I shouldn't say the metaphor, the example, the mashal, the example he gave is the Neshama Olam Haba, where the Neshama Olam Haba is described as being in a state of tremendous tainug, nen in miziv hashchina, as Chazal put it. They enjoy, they feel the delight and the pleasure from the ray of the Shechina. And he explained what that means is that when the soul is here, it often, unto a certain degree, there is a certain separation, a certain separateness, a certain detachment. When the Olul returns to its Ilah and there is complete oneness, so then there's Hana V'tainug Nifla, there's extraordinary pleasure and delight. Val Zed Nemar, on this it says, that this the Pasuk says, Lahanchil Oy Havai Yesh. The expression comes from a Pasuk in Mishlei, in Proverbs, in chapter 8, but the Mishnah, the last Mishnah of Shisha Sidri Mishnah in Uktzin, says that Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Amar Rabbi Shobon Levi, Asad HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahanchil l'chol tzadik v'tzadik shai oilamus shloish meyes v'asara oilamus. Hashem will bequeath to every righteous person 310 worlds. Shenemar lahanchil oy havai yesh, to bequeath, to give over to my beloved ones, my friends, oy havai, those who I love, those who love me, yesh. Yesh means something. The Mishnah teaches that yesh is shin yud, 310 worlds. But that's the pasuk that's used by the Chazal to describe the gift of Olam Haba, lahanchil oyavai yesh. So here the Balatanya reveals what's behind the word yesh, lahanchil oyavai yesh. So he says, al zen nemar lahanchil oyavai yesh, shemizgala oirein soif bebchinas yesh. That the Ur of the Ein Sof is revealed in a state of yesh. What do we mean yesh? As something. Yesh means something. Liyos hasaga utfisa lahanashama. Liyos nenis miziva Ur hanisbayr le'el. So that there could be some hasaga, some comprehension, some grasping by the soul, to be able to enjoy, to be able to experience the radiance of the ziv, of the gradients of the shechina, of the oil, of the energy of the Ein Sof. The hainu sheyesh hasaga v'havana eich sheyatza ma'afelu le'er gadol. There is an understanding, there is a comprehension and appreciation where I was, where I am. how she departed from the place of Afel, of darkness, to a place of Gadol, light, great light. And that's what is behind the joy, this joy that he's been describing, the joy that's represented by Yom Tov, is always from the fact that the Alul, the child, which has been born, which emerged, comes from the Ilah, from its ultimate source, its antecedent, its progenitor, has been distant, has been separated. In the Nimshal, the divine energy goes through the whole form and order of Ishtalshalus, one level to another level to another level, where it often becomes distant and eclipsed. And when the Alul comes back, when the Alul is miskarev, when it comes close to the Ilah, and it's masig, it has some awareness and comprehension of its Ilah, he says, V'tehi simcha g'dayla. This generates, it results in a tremendous sense of joy. Like the metaphor that he speaks of, and we spoke about the child, the prince, who was in captivity, and then is allowed to come see, never mind reunite. He doesn't even say reunite, even just see. To be able to see that source, to be able to appreciate it, to be able to comprehend it on some level, he says, that's the simchas ha'alul. Alul is, of course, like the child. The simcha of the alul, the joy of the alul, be'galos niglos alav oir ha'ila. When it experiences the oir, the light of the ilah, instead of being so far and distant and eclipsed, because there was a gilui. And there was a gilui, one that it could comprehend. It can comprehend the process. It can comprehend where I was, where I am. As he says, me'afela l'ergadol, me'evel yamtef, me'shibud l'gul, which is, of course, all from the text of the Haggadah, the end of the bracha, asher galanu, before we drink the second cup of wine. And that's the gilui generally connected to Yom Tov, the Maishivi Akeres Habayis. And then the example for that is Olam Haba, where the neshama, which is the Alul, is ultimately reunited, and therefore there's nothing obstructing the relationship between the Ilah and the Alul, and the tainug, the pleasure, the joy that creates, the simcha that creates, the hana that creates, as he puts it, hana v'tainug nifla, it's a tremendous experience of joy and ecstasy, because you have become one with your true core, with your true self, with your true source, with your true origin. And that's the source of real simcha. There's this fake simcha and there's real simcha. And real simcha is oneness, harmony. Then when there's the unity, the alignment between the parts of self, and you're truly one, we're truly one with yourself. Not that other people agree with you, but that you agree with you. That's not so easy. Other people agree with you could be exact opposite. Sometimes they agree with you because you're distant from yourself. But for you to agree with you, for the Alul to agree with the Ilah, for the Alul to agree with the Ilah, that's what simcha is. But lahanchil oyahava yesh. And the fascinating term here is yesh. For the Ein Sof to be able to be experienced by the Ilah, it has to be able to relate to its vessels, to its identity. As he puts it, there should be able to be a hasaga, there should be able to be a tfisa. If I comprehend it, I am connected to it. That's what it means, I'm connected to it. I'm aware of it, I comprehend it, it speaks to me, it's connected to me. For that, it must be contained, it must be expressed in a state that we call yesh. What do we mean yesh? As he explained, Hishtalshalus is yesh mi yesh, one yesh from another yesh. It must be expressed and manifested in a state of yesh, meaning a state that is something I could comprehend, something I could relate to. If not, there will not be the sense of simcha. The Alul needs to appreciate the Ilah. The neshama has to understand something from the Ein Sof. If I can't understand anything, if I can't relate to anything, there won't be a sense of simcha, there won't be a sense of I'm united with it. It has to be something that can relate to the I, that the Alul feels its own source, its own truth, its own core. It feels this is me. What makes it me? makes it me is, this is how I can define my I. This is where I find my I. This is where I encounter myself. So it's always called Lahanchil Oyeva Yesh, that the Ein Sof is manifested in a state of Yesh, in a way that there could be a Hasaga and a Tfisa for the Neshama. V'zeu, this is the deeper meaning in the Pasuk. B'nohar Yavru Beregel Sham Nismecha Boy. In Tehillim, in Kapitel Samaches, as he brings in the Marim Mekaimas, David HaMelech sings and he says, B'nohar Yavru Beregel. Through the river they passed on the regel, on the Yom Tov, on the holiday. Sham, there, Nismecha Boy, we shall rejoice in him. Al Pi Pshat, he's referring to Kriyas Yamsuf. They passed through the river. B'nohar Yavru Beregel. Sham Nismecha Boy, and there we rejoice as Yasher Moshe V'nei Yisrael, which happened on the 7th day of Pesach. But there is also here a description of what Simcha is. Sham Nismecha Boy. What's the Sham Nismecha Boy? It sounds like before that you can't rejoice. It says Pirush B'nohar Hayotzim Me'eden Shehu Binah Hu Ha'aliyah B'chol Regel Mishloisha Regalim. David HaMelech is not only talking about Pesach, he's talking about Beregel. True, Pesach is Rishon L'Regalim, as the Mishnah says in Rosh Hashanah. The beginning of the Regalim. Nissan is the first month, according to many calculations. Rishon L'Chem L'Chatzei Hashana. So it's the Rishon, it's the first of the Yomim Tovim. But this is the Aliyah. It's in the Nahar, in the river. Where is the Aliyah? Every Regel, where you rise up to, on every Yom Tov from the three festivities, the three holidays, Pesach, Shavuot, so because Rishamu Makir HaSimcha, and over there, Sham, over there is the source of Simcha. Eim Habanim Smecha. The mother is the one who rejoices. He says, B'nohar Hayotzei Me'eden. In Parshas Bereshis, we have the story of the original Garden of Eden, the Gan Eden. How does the Torah describe it? V'nohar yotzei me'eden lahashkas hasagan. Hashem planted Adam and Chava in Gan Eden, right? Vayita Hashem Elokim es Adam beGan Eden la'avda l'shamra, to work with it, to protect it, to preserve it. V'nohar yotzei me'eden lahashkas hasagan. A river emerges from Eden as we call it in English, whatever that's supposed to mean. A river comes out from Eden to irrigate the garden. Umisham yipared. From there, the river splits into 4 outlets. V'haya la'arba arashim, and you have the river of Gichain and Pishain and Chidekel and Pras. Right? Chidekel we translate as the Tigris, and Pras we translate as the Euphrates, and Pishain we translate as the Nile Delta. Rashi says it's the Nile. Gichain is not clear. There's different commentaries, different interpretations.
In Ir David, there's a stream that still goes. That some people say that's
it's not so clear what it is. Some associate it with the Yam Suf. So this is the literal pshat. Like every pasuk, especially Parshas Bereshis, is multi-layered and multifaceted. Eden, we'll soon see, is the description for Chachma. Nahar Yotzei Me'eden is the description for Binah, which is like a river that comes from a well. The well drops very weak flow underground, and the river expands it. And the well irrigates the river. The river comes into the Gan. That's what the Gan Eden, the original Gan Eden, gets irrigated from. It gets its productive powers from, its creative powers from the Nahar. And then from there, the Nahar splits. This is a metaphor for Binah. Nahar, as we will explain soon. Nahar is the river that comes from Eden, like Binah, which comes from Chachma. Bin Nahar, Yavru Beregel, every Yom Tif, we encounter the Nahar. We have the ability to encounter the Nahar, to enter into the river of Binah. Sham Nismecha Boy. And from there comes the Simcha. When the Alul understands in a state of Binah, the Ilah, when there's an appreciation and understanding, a Hasaga, which is Binah, Aim Habonim, the mother of the children. Children is the metaphor for Midas, for the emotions. The mother of the children is the metaphor for Binah. The father is Chachma, but we'll soon get to the father. This is Ima. That's why the Arizal told us, he said at the beginning of the Maimah, that Yom Tov is the Gilui of Moichin, the Ima, right? The mind of the mother. What does this mean? It means that on Yom Tov there's the ability, there's a deeper, intense empowerment for the experience of Aim Habonim, the mother of the children, to be able to comprehend, to understand, to appreciate the source, the Ilah. In other words, you can go into the place of the Nahar, ben Nahar Yavru B'regel. He says every regel is the Aliyah L'bchinas Nahar. You go up to the state of Nahar, Shab Nismecha Boy, from there comes Simcha. When the Alul grasps the Ilah, when the Alul appreciates the Ilah, even on a level of understanding, deeper and deeper, of course, in understanding itself, there's deeper and deeper and deeper. Sham Nismecha Boy, that's where the Simcha comes from. V'kol zeh mebchinas moichin de'imah. This is all a manifestation of what we call moichin de'imah, the state of consciousness or the mind of the mother, which is Binah, which is Olam Haba, which is Gan Eden Elyon, which is Gilui Tainug HaNeshamas Lefi Hasagas, which is the revelation of the Tainug HaNeshamas over there, the Neshamas experience. That's what Gilui means. Gilui means revealed. Revealed here means it's experience. The Neshamas experience the pleasure Lefi Hasagas based on their comprehension. And experience begins with Binah. Because what's the definition of Binah? Binah, like we spoke many times, Binah takes a seminal spark, a seminal idea, a seminal epiphany, and develops it, and makes it comprehensible. People have ideas all the time, epiphanies they call them, right? Like a lightning goes off in your brain. They call it a light bulb moment. What do they call it? The aha. Like when it's pitch dark and there's a lightning and suddenly the entire environment is bright, but for a fleeting moment. And then it's pitch dark again, the lightning leaves. That's the metaphor called Barak HaMavrik. The Balatanya uses that metaphor for Chachma. Barak HaMavrik. A blitz in cup, a lightning in the head, lightning moment. It's brilliant, it's very powerful. I need not explain the levels of electricity voltage in a lightning. It's beyond what one can imagine. The electricity of that. That's also part of the metaphor of Chachma. And there's a certain clarity, but it's fleeting. It's not something you can hold on to. You see somebody I have an idea. What? I don't know. Don't bother me now. But I have an idea. I'm not lying. Because if you bother me now, we're going to be left with nothing. I need the time. I need to internalize it. In some ways, that's the idea of the seed, the sperm of life, the tip of the father. It shoots like the Gemara's Lashon is, Yorik HaChetz, like a light, and it shoots out like an arrow. But it has no substance. It has a lot of substance, but it's all in a state of potentiality. It's the woman, it's the mother, it's the aim, the spouse, the wife, that can take it and conceive it and reunite it with the organism that Hashem created, the power of femininity to be able to do something with it.
Binah is only related to
Binah is mother, yeah. Binah is Eim Abonim. Eim Abonim Smecha. To take that seed of life and to develop it into an embryo, and then the embryo slowly develops over 9 months, you have a full-fledged fetus, and a child could be born. Eim Habonim Smecha. But without that stage, without the state of Binah, what happens to Chachma? It's too elusive, it's too intangible, it's too abstract, it's too transcendent. Binah concretizes the idea. Now it's not just, I had an epiphany, I have an idea, I can make a presentation. Sometimes people communicate on a level of Chachma and nobody knows what they're talking about, right? We spoke yesterday about leadership, about Malchus. It's also associated with femininity. One of the key elements is communication. Communication requires Binah, because it requires always that the person says Malchus is, the binyan of Malchus is from Gvura, from Binah, the left side. Chachma is the right column, Binah is the left column. The right column is always extroverted, the left column is introverted. The right column is ispashtus, expansive, and the left column is tzimtzum, filtering, restriction. Binah has to make something out of the chachma. It has to congeal it. It has to turn it into a structure. Now that's painful. Who wants structures? But without that, you can't talk about it. You can't write it down. You can't do anything with it. The transition from chachma to binah is the transition that he's going to call the transition from ayin to yesh. Chachma is still a state of ayin. It's still very close to ayin, which means nothingness. Doesn't mean it's nothing. It means it's too much. In Chassidus, when something is too much, it's called ayin. You understand, yeah? It's the opposite. It's not ayin because it's nothing. It's too much. It's too infinite. It's too seminal. It's too abstract. It's too intense. It's not filtered. It's not in a state of yesh. Therefore, I can't get it. Because the kalim, the vessels of my eye, won't grasp it. So the ayin now has to transition into a place of yesh. Concretization, structure, limit, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Chachma is the raw material. Binah turns it into a structure. There's a foundation, there's a first floor. Whenever you want to communicate successfully in any field, in Yoni, Kedusha, Lahavdil, business, whatever, one of the key components, and often people don't understand this, is if you want people to really get it, you must have structure. Structure is a critical component. You sometimes will hear people get up to speak in any form or fashion, whether it's a shir, lahavdil, other things, but there's no structure. The beginning, they're in one place, then they reminded themselves what their grandmother taught them, so they're somewhere else, then they remind themselves something else. And the beginning, the middle, and the end are disjointed, and there's a certain disappointment. There's something off here. What's missing? What's missing is there's no binyan, an architect. There's an architect of physical structures. There's an architect of spiritual structures. You also need architecture. You don't. Not anybody could put up a building. The Sefer Yetzirah says that avonim are oisius, stones are letters. Right? Shtei avonim, as is the lashon. Shtei avonim. On each evan is an ois. You put rocks together and you build a word. You put words together, right? And you build a sentence, and then you build a paragraph, and you build a chapter, and then you build many chapters, and then you build your book. That's in writing, and the same is true in speaking and communication. It's always a binyan. That's what it says in Sefer Yetzirah. Speaking is a form of building. Now you need an architect to plan it, and everything has to fit with each other. And if something is extra, it doesn't belong in the building, take it out of the house. Take it out of the house. Then, of course, you need a contractor. The contractor has to know what the architect did and understand it. So sometimes when you'll see it in communication a lot, a person gets up, you bring in some rocks, but they're disjointed. So what happens? There's no home. There's no creation. There's no structure. What's the uniqueness when you read an exceptional writer? He uses the same alphabet that everybody else uses. The same A and B and C and D and E and F and G. He doesn't have new letters. He doesn't have new oisies that other people don't have. It's all about the pauses and the configuration of the letters. I can use the same letters to speak foul language. I could use the same letters to speak stupidity, and I could use the same letters and I turn it into eloquent, dazzling brilliance. Exactly the letters that Hashem.
You can even use those same words.
Yeah, I mean sometimes a word is just coarse, but use those same letters, very same letters. You're not doing much, but you're doing a lot. Why? The structure is different. And just in parentheses, it's not the topic of the shir. The Baal HaTanya once explains the idea of good and evil that way, and it's very, very powerful. All good and evil in the world. Everything comes from Hashem. How can there be evil? The answer is that the letters are misplaced. And when the letters are misplaced, it's a completely different message. Like we learned about Oy Nega Nega from the Moirinayim. Oy Nega Nega also from Sefer Yetzirah, right? The letters are misplaced. And when the letters are misplaced, the energy is misplaced, which means the main avodah of a person in history is to be an editor-in-chief. That's the avodah of life. Yeah, everybody is a cosmic editor. You're an editor. We're given the same letters. Now your job is to edit.
Because of the letters,
are misplaced, the energy is misplaced, or because the energy is misplaced in Moses?
You want to know the chicken or the egg? The oil is the kettle. I guess both. So every person is an editor. Now, I grew up in the home of a journalist, so this is what we ate for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner. My father would sit with articles. This was typewriter days, right? And just edit. What's the definition of an editor? You look at an article, right? You see if there's no potential here, there's no potential. Got to go to the dustbin. But if there's potential, you see an article. You don't say, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing. How can you put this sentence here?" Change it. That's what an editor does. You change it. So in life, we're given certain articles. Don't get affected. Don't get overwhelmed. You got to change the letters. Yeah, this got to go there. This got to go there. It used to be with typewriters. You have to retype it, and you had to use whiteout, and it was a Shrek. Today, cut and paste. Copy and paste. It's a whole different Matzah. Why? Because you always need the binyan. You always need the structure, right? Like somebody once told me about speaking. He says, get up. Tell them what you want to tell them. Tell them what you told them and sit down. If it doesn't fit into those three, scratch it out. Tell them what you want to tell them, then tell them what you told them and sit down. And you can. This is just parentheses, but it's I think good advice. Whenever you're making a presentation at work or anywhere else, structure. The beginning, the middle, and the end has to come full circle. If it's not coming full circle, out. If it sticks out, yeah. I mean, I'm sensitive to these things because this is what it's a big part of my life. But when I hear people communicate, it's like a contractor comes into a house and starts getting headaches because this was placed wrong, this doesn't belong here, this doesn't, take that out, this pipe is destroying the house. Sometimes I hear people making a presentation, right? And I'm like, wrong pipe, wrong place. You just ruined your house. You ruined your house. It does not belong there. Either it doesn't belong there b'chlal, or that should have been before, that should have been... I'm just personally a little bit of allergic to this. But this...
Even the own stuff you worked on, you're like, oh my gosh.
That's fine. You have to edit yourself. Every good writer edits themselves many, many times. Anybody who writes, you write, and then you throw it into the garbage and you do a new one.
What happens if you're a good writer but not a good editor?
Yeah. Listen, some people have a tremendous gift for chachma. Their flow is endless, and they need an editor who's going to be brutal. And you know that editors and writers often have a lot of issues with each other because the writer thinks that every word was priceless. The editor says, I have 1,000 words. I have place for 1,000 words. You wrote an article of 7,000 words. So now he has to cut out 6,000 words, and the writers will never forgive him.
The editor is always a Binah, and the writer is always
Yeah. I can't say always, but editing is connected very much to Binah. It's also connected to right brain, left brain. Chachma is intuitive. Huh?
Yeah, I was smart to hire an editor.
And women are usually the editors of their husbands, no, in life. You come on with an idea, she's like, yeah. I mean, basically, I think many wives are editors of their husbands, right? Editor-in-chief. Yeah, Binah Yisera. Yeah, that's how the Balatanya will explain. Binah Yisera nitna be'isha. There's a gift. The Isha, Eim Habanim, has a gift in Binah. And Binah is always detailed-oriented. Doesn't mean no men have this gift. Doesn't mean no women are the opposite. But like we spoke last time, we're speaking here in general terms about masculinity, femininity. In every man there's a woman, in every woman there's a man. In every man there's sometimes a strong woman, and in some women there's sometimes a strong man. You know, it's not always black and white, the gender difference. So there's a man, there's a woman, but a healthy masculine identity includes a feminine identity, and conversely, which is why they could connect. If not, they would be completely in two planets. No, they are in two planets, but they would be in two universes. At least it's one universe, two planets. Without this, it would be two universes, and two universes that would never meet each other. You couldn't have the concept of V'hoilak. We learned in Tazriya about Ish Mazriya, the Maimah of Tazriya, Ish Mazriya Tchila Yeladas Nekeva. So this is what Binah always has to do to Chachma. Concretize it. Turn it from Ayin into Yesh. You will never be able to hold on to a Chachma. Try it. It won't happen. You'll have the flash, the light. It's like holding on to a lightning. When you're stranded, I was once stranded in a desert in the middle of the night. It was at night, there was pouring rain. I never saw such darkness. Because the way we live today, wherever you are, it's not completely dark. You know, there's a lantern, there's a light, there's a night light, something is there. There's a car, there's a truck, there's a hotel, the Epis. But I was somewhere in camp in Michigan with some chevra and some children. It was on a canoe trip, so we were in the wilderness, and it became pitch dark, and it was not just darkness. It was like v'yamish choshech. You could touch the darkness. We couldn't see anything. We Pasha didn't know where to go, and it was nighttime, and it was we felt it was dangerous, and somebody saw a bear over there. In any case, there was a series of 8 lightnings, one after another. And I remember seeing it and thinking, that's what the Alter Rebbe meant with Chachma. This is it. It was so light, it was amazing. And since there were 8 ones after each other, so it gave us the time to be able actually to identify a house, to be able to identify what's in the house, and it saved the day or saved the night. But could you hold on to it? It's there, it's powerful, it's intense, the voltage is extraordinary, but it's gone, it's fleeting. It's fleeting. And that's a good, powerful metaphor for Chachma. When Chachma happens, it happens, and it's powerful, and at that moment you see everything. But it won't last for more than a few moments. And then you're back in this place of darkness. But once there was Chachma, you got a seed. And now you can take that seed and work with it. It's going to be tedious. It's going to be sometimes boring and monotonous, because Chachma has that excitement of newness. But that's the only thing that allows it to develop into something real. And the man comes up with a great idea. You know what this idea is? Let's have a child. Really? How long does that take? And then 9 months, there's somebody who has to deal with your idea. And there's the pain of development and pregnancy and then birth and all that. And one has to appreciate that. Which is why Jewish identity is based on the mother. Because the one who really sacrificed herself for the birth of this person is the woman. The man made a contribution, a very important contribution. He wrote a check, and we don't underestimate that check. It's called a seed, and then hopefully he'll write more checks in the future. But there's a contribution, and there's somebody whose entire life becomes defined by it. But here we're talking about this nekuda of taking Chachma and turning it into Binah. So the mashal for this is the Mayan and the Nahar. What's the difference between the wellspring and the Nahar, the river? The wellspring is underground, and when you encounter a wellspring, you will usually see a very, very weak flow. It's like a trickle. Some wells, it's just a trickle of water. It doesn't stop. It's called Mayim Chaim, but it's a small trickle. It's underground. It's buried. But that Mayan feeds Naharos. Wells, springs feed rivers. Rivers are large, expansive. They're not Mayim Chaim anymore. Halachically, there's 2 types of mikvahs. There's Mayim Chaim, living water, which means when you dip in a wellspring, which is always connected to its source. And then there is a pool of water, a body of water, even if it's natural water, it's rainwater, which is natural, and it's kosher from mikvah, but there's a few taharos, there's a few forms of cleansing that require only Mayim Chaim. And that's the difference of Chachma and Binah. Binah is a nahar, it's beautiful. You know, when you come to the river, nobody takes pictures by wells. You ever noticed? Because you're going to get very dirty. You have to go into the rocks and go down and climb. Pictures, you go canoeing and you go on a boat and you stand by the river. It's beautiful. It's very appealing. It's very impressive. It's structured. It's nice. It's big. It says, rivers are beautiful. And many of them come from natural water, either the rainwater or the well springs that feed into the river. But the river often may be detached from the Mayim Chaim. It's not a Mayim Chaim. And that's the difference between Chachma and Binah. In Chachma, it's the source itself. Because it's the source itself coming into you, like the lightning, therefore it's fleeting. Because how could it not be fleeting? In Chachma, somebody says, I have an idea. You said that wrong. You don't have an idea. The idea has you. That's Chachma. I don't have an idea. The idea got me. The idea captured me. I wasn't there. You'll see in a moment of an epiphany, you lose your self-consciousness. If you would have been self-conscious, you would have not had that insight. The insight came only because of a moment of bittul. You'll see, whenever you have a new insight that comes into your head, you were not thinking about anything outside of that idea. You were completely subsumed and submerged in that space. And because you were open, therefore it could come into you. But it captures you. You don't have it, it has you. Binah is morphing that into a new place. Not the idea has me, but I have the idea. By definition, for me to have the idea has to be diluted. Because for me to have the idea, it has to enter into my cup. And my cup is only 8 ounces. If it's only 8 ounces, what happens? The mayan has to translate into a nahar. Fixed, shape, molded, a structure, a beautiful structure. It's a river, but it's not the wellspring. Binah yavru beregel. On Yom Tov is the aliyah to the nahar, to Binah. That's why we say Hallel. What's Hallel? Eib habonim smeicha. Moishiva yakeres habayis. When the Olul comes back to the Ilah. How can the Olul come back to the Ilah in our world? In Olam Haba, the neshama leaves the body. I understand the neshama leaves the body. It goes from the Gashmi to the Ruchni. And the neshama is very happy. What does it mean in our world? It means there's hasaga. When the Olul has Binah, when there's a real hasaga, when there's a real understanding, every person according to his or her capacity. But there's an understanding of the Ilah, there's an awareness of the Ilah. Vatehi hasimcha g'doyla, the Olul erupts in joy. Lahanchil oyhava yesh, Olam Haba is defined as the yesh. There's a hasaga, the ayin translated into yesh, and that's why you could comprehend it. There could be a tfisa, there could be a hasaga. That's the pshat, that Yom Tov is the gili of moichin the ima, the mother. What's the mother? The mother is Binah. The character of Binah is fully functioning, that what? That the divine energy, Ein Sof, allows itself. Hashem, Kevayachal, reveals himself in a state of Binah so that the mother rejoices with the awareness of the Ilah, rather than the mother being a keres habayis, like a chulda, like a weasel who's weaseling around the ikre habatim. We'll soon see Shabbos. Jetzt Handam and Yom Tov, moment before Shabbos. What's the difference of the weasel down there? And why do we call it from a Pesach chulda adar bikre batim? The chulda is the quality. I looked up the Shushan Seidus yesterday. It's not a sefer that it doesn't even say a name on it. There's a sefer called Shulchan Aruch HaRizal, and over there he mentions it, and he says it was written by a Talmud HaRamban. So they don't write on it a name. They just write that. Arizal writes that it was written by a Talmud HaRamban. That's why when the Balatanya says it, he doesn't say a name. He just says Talmud HaRamban, doesn't give a name. Shushan Seidus, but it's a Kabbalah sefer, very rare. I found it on Oitzer HaChachma. It was printed Karetz Tovkuf Mem Daled, which is just a few years before this Maimer was set. Tovkuf Mem Daled would be 1784 in Karetz, where there was a printing press, and so it's very old letters. So the Shushan Seidus over there, he has a little piece, and he says that the Chulda goes down, Malchus is Mislabish Ba'ayin Sarim, Malchus is manifested in the Klippus, and then it goes back up. That's what the Gemara means, Chulda Hadara Bikri Batim. Now, what's the meaning of this? The meaning of this is, as he puts it, weasels like rats and mice, they're always hiding, They always hide. They create their what are they called? Their dens, their dens in places like all animals and all birds and all rodents. And they're very, very sensitive to the fact that there are predators who want to chab them. The Chulda especially is very sophisticated. I mean, I think that's what he means. It's extremely sophisticated in the fact that it has to hide out. And we have in Pesachim, interestingly, the metaphor for that creature who's looking for the bread and hiding it somewhere is the weasel, which is why the Mishnah thought that Bdikas Chametz should have to be done by everybody at the same time. Because if I do my Bdikas Chametz before your Bdikas Chametz, right, it's very possible that the weasel went to your Chametz and then brought it to my house, and now I have to do a new Bdikas Chametz. And the only reason the Mishnah says we don't worry about that is because Ein L'Davas Seif. Because basically you could close down the whole Pesach experience, because then you could also say from town to town, and then from city to city, and then it could be from Los Angeles to New York also. So so every Jew in the whole world internationally, the Chuldas get around pretty fast these days. They hitchhike, and they have no problems. They hitchhike with everybody and everything, and therefore, ein l'davas soif. Im kein ein l'davas soif. Mechatzel l'chatzel meir le'ir ein l'davas soif. But the Chulda is always hiding out its food for a time of crisis, and it's basically extremely, it conceals itself, and that's why it builds all these things. Be'ikrei batam. It's not going to do it on the open because of predators, and most importantly, they don't want you to share their food with them, right? They don't know that we sometimes have a different taste. We can understand this very much in human life, I think there's an expression in English, a weasel, right? It represents something. But sometimes you have a person, whenever the olul is not one with the ilah, you're always in hiding. You're in hiding because you don't know who you are. Whenever you don't know who you are, you have to hide. You have to hide from yourself, and you have to hide more from others. There's a certain element of a chulda hadara be'ikrei batim, a person who's really can't be fully present because they may be ashamed, they may be trying to impress others, so they can't come out in their full glory because the olul and the ilah are not connected. When the olul comes back to the ilah, it's instead of being a chulda be'ikrei batim, the person can emerge as an Eim Habanim Smecha. One of the greater gifts of life is when you know who you really are, and you embrace it fully, and you embrace it with ease and with serenity, and you don't have to weasel your way around in life, and today with this one, and today with that one, and outsmart this one. There's a certain wholesomeness, once in a while, you'll meet somebody and you'll see on their face a menuchas hanefesh that is deep, that's inner. It's inner serenity. I'm not talking about outer serenity. Outer serenity you have to wait for after 120 years. Life could be stressful, but I'm talking about inner serenity. Inner serenity comes, I know exactly who I am, and I also know who I'm not. And I don't try to copy anybody. There's an expression from the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe, he says in a Sikhi, he says, Apnimi, a real person, guckt nicht auf die, wo seinen niederike wir, guckt euch nicht auf die, wo seinen hecher wir. He doesn't look at people who are lower than him, he also doesn't look at people who are higher than him. Understand? You have to know who you really are. You could learn from everybody. You could learn and be inspired by everybody. But I can't copy anybody else. I can't. If I have to be authentic. I could learn, I have to challenge myself, stimulate myself, learn from the example of others, apply it to my life. Always, we should learn from everybody, and you could learn from everybody. But I can't copy anybody. And I can't stay in hiding. Life is too short to live in hiding places. People live in hiding places, and then they peek out. Right? So you become like a chulda, you become like a rat hiding your food. Don't stay in hiding places. What does Hashem say? What does it say in Shir Hashirim? Hareini es marayich, hashmiini es koilech, ki koilech orev umarich nove. How does he begin? Yoinosi b'chag ve'asela b'seisa madrega. The dove, beautiful dove, lives in the clefts of a rock. It's hiding. So he says, Hareini es marayich, show me your face. Hashmiini es koilech orev umarich nove. This was written before Kalbach's Negan. Before the niggin. Let me hear your voice. Let me see your face. Your voice is sweet. A person lives in hiding. Why are you hiding? I'm hiding because I'm embarrassed for myself. What are they going to say? What are they going to think? Pnei adarka, pnei hakelev. What does the olam do? What he's supposed to do now, right? He says, Harini es marayich. Show me your face. Hashmini es koilech. Don't stay over there under the ground. emerge. But the only way I can emerge is if I know who I am. So that's the great gift of the Olul coming back to the Ilah. Yeah. That's the gift of Yom Tov. That's the gift of Yom Tov. Now, because of this, Rashi says that the definition of a neshama yisera, it says on Shabbos a neshama yisera, right? An extra neshama. So what does it mean? So Rashi says you can eat more. You can eat more. You could see people on Shabbos, they can eat more. It's like it's almost like the body grows, the consciousness grows, the brain grows, the soul grows, so you can eat more. But ach and vei, if that's where the neshama yisera begins and ends. Yeah. In other words, on Yom Tov, there's a certain energy you can tune into. The Alter Rebbe says, what is that energy? That the Olul could comprehend the Ilah more. That the Neshama can experience more the Ein Sof. But because there's a certain energy, so a person could use it for a lot of things. But it's Yom Tov. They have to understand what it's meant for, what the calling is, what the unique opportunity is. It could be squandered for superficial things. It could be utilized for authentic causes. Aval moich in the Abba. How do you bring the Olul back to the Ilah on Yom Tov?
Oh, that's automatic. And the opportunities there.
Das ist a gute Shaila. He says the Maimer seems to imply something so serene and beautiful, but Pesach is so stressful and overwhelming. So the Shlomo wants to know what this means practically. What is he supposed to do on this Yom Tov different? Yeah? If you should make an extra kugel.
We already said that we were not interested.
No.
That's wasting the energy. Right. That's the first question of the Manishtan. That's the first question. Manishtan alayla ze mikol halaylas. Tati is not only, it's Tati, how do we make this night different than every other night? So this is every other night I'm sitting with my cell phone, and tonight I'm without my phone.
I mean, there seems to be an energy you can tap into that brings it to genuine simcha, right?
Yeah.
It's a massive practice. Yeah.
How do you tap in? What's the exercise to tap into this energy? You have an answer? You want an answer? I'll say one nekuda that I think is practical. I don't think it's all of it, but I think it's one point that can maybe be useful. I spoke about structuring, so it's a little hard to structure this idea, but however it comes out, it comes out. If we appreciate this idea, b'pnimius, what we're really saying is that the Olul shouldn't be separated from the Ilah. It should never be. It is because our reality looks at it that way. But the Olul is never separated from the Ilah. Hishtalshalus is not a real distance. Hishtalshalus is a perceived difference. That's what all Hishtalshalus is. Hishtalshalus is that Hashem allows the energy to emerge in a way where man's mind can distort it. Where Malchus could become the fuel of a chulda, hadara be'ikri batim. So Moshivi Akeres Habayis, Eim Habanim Smecha means, when we say Aliyas HaMalchus, he says, Yom Tov is Aliyas HaMalchus, or his Lashon here was, Meiredik Lashon with the Nar, what does he say? That, Bin Nar, Hu Ha'aliyah B'chol Regel, the Aliyah of every Regel is the Aliyah to the Nar. That's what Aliyah L'Regel means, right? You go up to the Nahar. So it doesn't mean physically. I mean, at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they physically did Aliyah L'Regel too. But the concept is, it's a movement in the soul. It's a movement in the soul. The Aliyah HaMalchus, it's a concept of perception. It's an issue of awareness. Aliyah HaMalchus means redefining who you are and where you are. That's what the Aliyah of Yom Tov is. So what this means is that much, and as he puts it there, it's hasaga, it's about awareness, it's about comprehension. So it's not like, okay, Yom Tov comes, so let me start doing certain things or not doing certain things to experience it. That's not what it means. Maybe it can also mean that, but I think what it means first and foremost is a perpetual awareness on Yom Tov that wherever I am, the Olul is connected with the Ilah. Wherever I am in life, and whatever reality I'm facing in life, the Olul is appreciating the Ilah. The Olul is connected, it's united with the Ilah. Which means the person with the Ein Sof, yeah. So, you sit down at a Seder table, or at a Yom Tov meal, right? Or you go to Shul on Yom Tov, or you come home on Yom Tov. Whatever you do on Yom Tov, you have guests on Yom Tov, you sit with your children, with your wife, with family, with friends, relatives, archim, whatever it is, whatever the format is. Before the meal, after the meal, before the Seder, after the Seder. But it's a common denominator in all of Yom Tov. What does it mean, Moyadim L'Simcha? Moyadim L'Simcha means that wherever I am in life, is in the best place. It's in the best place. Because I'm one with the source. And the person I'm facing from that place. From that place. What happens? The greatest impediment for simcha is disappointments and expectations that are unrealized. Yeah. Practically, people come to their Seder, they prepared already, they've been reading 40, 50 Haggadahs over the last month. They have like 300 Torahs in their head that they're going to be sharing with the family who's going to be enthusiastically inspired by their brilliance. Right? Yankee, Kaddish, Zak Kaddish. I don't want to. Chvil nisht. Okay, Sarah Urcha. I don't want to. And now there's already a fight going on, yeah? He took his becher, this spilling of the wine. Yeah. And you're like trying to say, Avach Sam Seif. Yeah, and avoid from the Briska Haggadah. Avoid from the, excuse me, avoid from the Munkach Haggadah. Avoid from der Haggadah, jene Haggadah, wo, was, when, right? And people are frustrated, they're angry, this whole Seder is not turning out as well, this whole Pesach is ruined. But it's Man Cheresenus, you have to be Besimcha. Besimcha! He's screaming Simcha, he's angry, the poor guy is disintegrated. Then he's not sure about his Achilles Prasel, now he mamash has a heart attack. V'chuli, you get the picture, right? So here's how to do it. The way to do it is to remember that the Nekuda of Pesach is V'higada Levincha. To speak to your child, wherever your child is, just to connect. The moment I have expectations, I'm not connecting to my child, I'm connecting to my ego. Even if it's a spiritual ego. Connecting to my child means connecting to my child, not connecting to who I think my child is or who I would like him to be. By connecting to your child, you can help him become who he should really become, but not by not connecting. Yeah.
What's different on Pesach night than the rest of the year?
Oh. So on Pesach, you could trust him that there's a special energy in the world that allows a person to be in this place. The point of Yom Tov is to continue a whole life. The point is not to be besimcha on Yom Tov. After Yom Tov, we become miserable. If you are really besimcha on Yom Tov, you're going to be besimcha a whole year. But the concept of Yom Tov is a special oir, a special opportunity, a special koyach in the world. Wherever you are, you're sitting at the table, whatever is happening is exactly where God is. You don't have to recreate a world. That's where it is. It's great. That's where it is. It's only perception. If you comprehend the ilah, or you're living in like a weasel, be'ikre batim, trying to weasel your way out. If you realize this is the place of grandeur, this is the place of unity. From right here, right now, I'm going to connect because everything is the way it's exactly supposed to be. And you can accept it, and you can embrace it, and you can celebrate it. And sometimes that means talking about something very real. Sometimes it means identifying something very broken. But that's also where the ilah is. The ilah is not only in endless grandeur. Sometimes it's in a very honest conversation. Maybe sometimes, telling myself, I'm really not feeling it's Pesach and I'm not feeling anything. Yeah? That's probably the best conversation for quite a few people to have. It's their greatest mancheroseno. If they could give themselves permission to find God where they are and not where somebody told them they're supposed to be. I want to know how many people sit down by the Seder and experience absolutely nothing besides a migraine and a lot of stress and just want to get this over with and are wondering who came up with this religion.
That's how you know it's from God.
Huh? Who came up with this religion? Tell me. And what's the point? And couldn't we celebrate our liberation in a different way a little bit?
Six Flags.
Isn't that Nirtza?
Liberating.
Whatever way.
That's Nirtza. That's Nirtza.
Know that it was good.
Yeah, Nirtza. That's Nirtza.
That's the action.
Yeah.
The Shema, where you
Now, this is not about not challenging yourself. It's about challenge. It's about growth from where you are, not growth in some world that doesn't exist. That's what it means. The Olul could come back to the Ilah. The Olul come back to the Ilah doesn't have to go anywhere. Wherever you are, that's exactly the that's where the Ziv HaShechina is. It's all about awareness. Can I comprehend it? The reason I can't comprehend it is because I create expectations of what a relationship looks like. Maybe a relationship looks like exactly what it looks like. Including the fact that I could say, a part of me is very, very stressed. A part of me is very, very overwhelmed. A part of me feels broken. A part of me feels angry. A part of me feels desperate. A part of me feels anxious. I don't think you should tell this to your children. Huh? A part of me feels afraid. Thank you.
So is it possible that...
And from this is where I'm going to connect. And you know what will happen? You'll have a real Yom Tov. You'll see. And a whole Yom Tov is this way. You come to Shul, you come to Daven, talk to Hashem and say, I learned in Likkutei Torah that it's you can tell him. He also learned Likkutei Torah. I learned this. I learned that on Yom Tov there's the Olul could be Masik De'ila, Benar Yavra Beregel Shamnes Mechabaya. That's where I want to be. And that's where I'm going to be. And every conversation that you have on Yom Tov should be from that place. You don't leave that place. I am now in my most wholesome place, the most wholesome reality that there is. What a wholesome reality looks like. We have expectations. That's why we say, I know I'm in a miserable reality. This house is crazy. Everybody has a beautiful Seder besides me. Why can't my family get it together? We're the only family who can't get it together. Really, go to some other's door. A couple ones came to me. They were having some shalom bayis issues. So the husband says, last night we were at a bar mitzvah, and there was this couple there at the smorgasbord, whatever. And they were so happy, We were looking at them. Why can't we be that way? He just didn't know that they came earlier. You understand? You compare yourself to others, Dorim, and other people, and last year was better, and what are you saying? You're saying is that God is not here. That's basically what you're saying. That you're somewhere buried in the Nalach. You're a chulda. I'm a chulda, buried in Nalach, hiding my chametz. Of course, he's right here. This is where he is. And if there's a disappointment and there's something frustrating and there's something that's frightening me, that's part of where he is. The Ilah is there too. The Ilah doesn't run away from there. And I could share it. I could share it with myself. I could share it with him. I could give myself permission to be wherever I am because God is there. We don't give ourselves that permission. We're trying to create substitute realities in the name of Kedusha. But Kedusha means that there's no substitute reality. Kedusha means that Einoid Malvada is gleich da, right here, with this child, with the wine spilled all over the table. Huh? With that, huh? The right Matzah, yeah.
By staying.
Just staying there and connecting. But don't use this as an escape. This is not about an escape. Oh, it's chaos. Just who cares about Pesach? It's the exact opposite. This is not about escaping or apathy or indifference. This is about full presence. Being really present. I don't have to run away. And you know what? Yeah. Chazal don't stop saying that the Kinder soll nicht einschlafen. The children shouldn't fall asleep. Why? Because people fall asleep. If they wouldn't fall asleep, they wouldn't talk about it. They fall asleep. And sometimes it means buying frogs before Pesach and throwing frogs all over the place. Whatever. Throwing, yeah, I know people who buy all the 10 makas. And me läuft, me springt. Well, you have real snakes, so you don't have to buy. Huh? You do the real snakes too? Oh, the frogs.
Real frogs.
Huh?
Feed them to the snake.
I mean, I told you once the whole story with the Baditchever and the alcoholic and the Seder. I told you once, yeah? What did the Baditchever like about his Seder? He liked about his Seder that he wasn't copying anybody. He wasn't copying anybody. He couldn't copy such a Seder. It was too dysfunctional. He said, God, I don't know anything about this Yom Tov. Ich verstehe gar nicht. I know you redeemed us then. Do us a favor and redeem us again. Chaim, das ist a Seder. And he drank all the 4 cups, one after the other, which the Gemara says in Pesachim, Yidei Yayin Yotze, Yidei Dalet Koises Lo Yotze. And some Rishonim say even Dalet Koises, but not Dalet Koises in the order. Okay, but however you explain it halachically. So that's the point. Of course, sometimes you have a Seder, you could share a lot of Torah and beautiful Divrei Torah and beautiful Verte and insights. Kol Chada from Shura Delay. Right? But the point is, Vegada Talavincha. Wherever your child is, speak to him. And I should say, whenever I go speak somewhere, I always ask the organizers to tell me about the audience. I have to know the audience. First of all, what language, who they are, what their background is. If it's audiences who don't know the word Moshe Rabbeinu, I have to know. I'm going to get up and start quoting Psukim. They don't know what the word Moshe is. I have to say Moses. So you always have to know your audience, right? The Pasuk says, and it's the only mitzvahs esim in HaTorah on the night of Pesach besides Matzah. And even with Matzah there's a debate. When it comes to the only thing that according to everybody is mamish min HaTorah, the night of Pesach is one mitzvah, Vegada Talavincha. Tell the story to your child. Oh, so the question is, I want to tell the story to my child, but do you know who your audience is? If you don't know who your audience is, how can you tell them a story? How do you tell the story? What language do you know your audience? For this, you have to know who your child is. If you don't know who your child is, you don't know your audience. You can't speak to your audience. So you have to know who your child is, where your child is. Then you could speak to your child. You could relate to your child. You could pass on the story. That's what it says in Haggadah, Keneged Arba Banim Divrei Torah. You got to know your audience. If I speak to the Chacham like I speak to the Tam, and I speak to Yedei Elisha like I speak to the Rasha, and I speak to the Tam like I speak to the Chacham, I don't know my audience. They look at me and they're like, okay, Tati, have a good day.
You have all 4 present.
If you have all 4 present, well, you have all 4 present. So let me tell you, when you have all 4 present, you have to find all 4 in yourself. When you find all 4 in yourself, then you could speak to all 4 present. People don't mind, children don't mind when you give somebody else attention, as long as they felt that their space also received the attention it needs. If you could give me your soul even for a moment, I don't mind if you give your soul to another person, to another child. On the contrary, I appreciate it. I'm not selfish. I appreciate it. I have a brother, I have a sister, there's another child too. The problem is not that there's 4 children, the problem is that some of them could be ignored. And it's not about expectations, that's the whole point. It's not the Ilah being united with the Alul in simple English means it's not expectations. Expectations means you're not united. You're looking for something else. I wish, the words I wish, we could have had a different house, a different family, a different marriage, a different Seder. Yeah? That's the opposite of all simcha. That drains all simcha. It basically means your life is a failure. How happy can you be about that? So you have to substitute it with all types of weird stuff to make yourself happy. But what if you appreciate this is where it is. This is where all reality is. This is where all truth is. This is where all infinity is. You are completely one with the source. You don't have to run anywhere. You could be fully present in this matzah, in this situation. And even if there's things bothering you, that's also part of it. You can acknowledge that too. You don't have to run away from that either. There's things bothering me, okay? There's something that's hurting. There's something that's painful. There's something I have to deal with. There's something I have to confront. That's also part of the relationship. It doesn't have to define me completely. I can experience it. It's also part of the relationship. And then I can choose my values. I can choose where I want to be, what I want to say, how I want to connect at every single moment. And they can say, it's hard for me now. Now I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Okay. That's part of the olol also. That's part of being the olol. That's part of the child. I'm also a child.
So the good energy that comes in on Pesach, as you said, the greatest way to receive it is when you're present. Whatever is happening, and you also allow that to happen. Otherwise, it's all a distraction.
Yeah, when you're fully present, you allow the Ein Sof to be in your house. When you're running away from reality, you're also running away from God. That's what people don't realize. You're running away from your gift.
But the special energy that comes out of Pesach, the only way to let it in is by being fully present.
Fully present. And fully present doesn't mean there's nothing aggravating. Of course there's going to be things aggravating. If the whole wine just spilled on my matzah, I worked on my kaida for like 40 minutes, right? And then somebody, I'm going to be aggravated. And if I open up my box of matzahs and I can't find a whole matzah, right? Kaminig hanagidim for samim, yeah?
But we don't have to take action on it.
Exactly. That's it, life. That's when the Jews left Mitzrayim, there was no chaos. Ich frag, when 4 million Jews left Mitzrayim, there was no chaos. What do you think? Huh?
There was somebody eating your broth.
There was no chaos. Parei geschrien kailas abrakim. Get out of there! No, so your house is worse. The original Pesach is no tzaikas. Yeah? So you have to define if you're parei or you're not parei. Are you going to be the screamer? You're going to be the listener. But I'm not trying to say you should try to make it as orderly and as beautiful and as organized as possible. But life, especially with children, is always full of surprises. It comes with a time. If you have a baby and the baby decides to start screaming for an hour and a half, so what now? There's no Pesach anymore. There's no Pesach anymore. It's Pesach. I was sitting with, some time ago, it was like a few, before, I think 2 years ago before Pesach, maybe 3 years ago, some time ago before Pesach, there was a group of single moms who asked if they could meet me. Women who are either widows or divorced, with children usually, and they wanted to meet. It was mostly divorced, and some of them very difficult and challenging marriages and challenging divorces. So we met before Pesach. It was like a few weeks before Pesach. It was in Brooklyn. A lot of women came. And I spoke. They asked me to speak for a few minutes. And then I took questions and answers. I asked them to share if they want to ask questions and so forth. So a woman shared the following. She said that she has, I think, 4 children. And her husband, her ex-husband, made up with her that they're going to be, they for Yom Tovim, they switch off one holiday by the mother, one by the father, and for one particular Pesach, the Pesach before, they made up, it was her turn to take out the children. So she was very excited. She's going to have them for the whole Yom Tov. And she cleaned the house. And cleaning a house is cleaning a house. She's not a rich woman. She didn't hire help. She cleaned herself. She cleaned for 3 or 4 weeks. And then she prepared for the Seder. And she prepared everything for the Seder single-handedly. And he was supposed to drop off the children 2 hours before Likkutei. And she had everything ready, and the tables were set, and the lettuce, with the mother, with the charosis, with the wine, with the matzah, with the chicken, with the fish, lebedik. It's 2 hours before Likkutei, and they're not arriving. Yeah. Around a half an hour before Likkutei, then he texts her, and he says, I'm sorry, the children are not going to be able to come for Yom Tov. And it was a few minutes before Likkutei. So she tells me that she was just like in shock, just in shock. and it's Yom Tov is about to come in. She was so crushed, she didn't even have the koyach to ask a neighbor or a friend in the neighborhood to go over for the Seder. She was just so disoriented. And she told me that she had the worst Seder in her life. And she doesn't even know if it was a Seder. She sat herself, crying half the time. She did the Haggadah. She said the Manishtana. She made Kiddush. She drank 4 cups. She ate Matzah. She followed the Haggadah till the end. She said the whole thing took her, 45 minutes. Some people would be jealous probably. And so she asked me, how was she supposed to deal with this element, with such an experience emotionally? Because Pesach is coming. She's traumatized. She's traumatized. It was a very intense question. What am I supposed to say? I'll tell you what I told her. Ina Hashem liyadi. Listen, there's one element with your ex, which is a bigger issue than Pesach. I mean, obviously this type of behavior is, it's immoral, it's obnoxious, it's rude, it's beyond rude, it's abusive, it's really abusive. You know, you have to be aware of that. There was something wrong that was done. Even if there was a real issue, it's not how you do it, half an hour before Likkutei. It's beyond disgusting. You know, so obviously I acknowledged that and validated that, and, you know, you have to figure out how to deal with this. That's one aspect. But she said she knows that. She said that she knows. She wanted to hear about the Pesach, God, the Seder, and all that. So it just came into my mind, literally, as she finished asking, it came into my mind, Ina Hashem liyadi, literally. I never thought about it. I thought about it, but it was somewhere in my memory, and it came to mind. And I said, I'll tell you something that I once saw. And I asked myself the question years ago, and then it just stayed there. And now I remember it. I grew up in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. The Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't have children. He used to do the Seder by his father-in-law, the Rebbe Rayatz, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, till he passed away. When he passed away in 1950, Tovshin Yud, he did it by his mother-in-law. His wife, Rebbe Tzina Medina. They lived on the second floor of 770 Eastern Parkway. That's where the Rebbe Rayatz lived. And his wife lived there, and he would do the Seder there with his mother-in-law and some. The people who used to come then, you know, some Chassidim came and Bachram came. It was pretty packed. Small room, but packed. His mother-in-law passed away in 1971. So from then, he went to do the Seder with his wife. And they would do it alone, just he and his Rebbetzin, in their home on President Street in Brooklyn. The Rebbe's wife passed away in 1988, Tovshin Mem Ches. The question is, who would he do the Seder with? Pesach night, he always did it with her, and they didn't have children, no relatives. So that night of Pesach, my father, Olav Shalom, would get matzah from the Rebbe for the Seder. So I would go in with him sometimes. There was a boy, Ari Halberstam. Ari Halberstam was shot and killed on the Brooklyn Bridge, you remember? In 1994. Other time, before Pesach. Ari Halberstam was a kid then, 1988. His father was a meshamish. He used to help the Rebbetzin in the house on President Street. You know, help with different tasks. His name was Chesed Halberstam. Chaim Sinai David. Sons of Rav Zanenikol from the Halberstams in Yerushalayim. So I saw Ari, a little cute kid, 88, going over to the Rebbe when he was giving his father matzah and him matzah, and says, my mother asked if you could come over to us for the Seder. They lived on Eastern Parkway. My mother asked if you come over to the Seder. So Ari Halberstam asked the Rebbe, I saw myself. So the Rebbe smiled and he was very gracious and he said, please thank your mother for the invitation, but I'll be here. Okay. So the Olam left. The Rebbe had a secretary, Rabbi Label Groner. So he thought the appropriate thing would be that he would stay there for the Seder, you know, and then he would go home and his wife would understand. He's with the Rebbe. So Rabbi Groner stayed in the room to prepare for the Seder. The Rebbe was in his room. He didn't even have a house. His little room became his house. Because once his wife passed away, his room became his house. In 770, his little room. So the Rebbe asked him, what are you doing here? He said, you have a family, go home. And he sent him out. So So from that Pesach till the end of his life, the Rebbe did the Seder himself. Completely himself. Huh? Yeah, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, the Rebbe, 92, the Rebbe had a stroke. But all those years, he did it himself. He would come out outside of 770 to greet, Felio Anavi. Whoever hung around. But that was it. He did the Seder himself. And I thought to myself, I'm telling this woman, I thought to myself, I was only, I was 15, 16, I was a young bocher. I thought to myself, the Rebbe he even asked the chief rabbis of Israel, Rabbi Eliyahu and Rabbi Shapiro, that they should do public zdarim in Eretz Yisrael for people who don't have a family, and he'll pay for it. And they did it. The Rebbe initiated public zdarim probably in the hundreds, maybe in the thousands, from Nepal to the Congo, to Tokyo, wherever there's Jews who don't have family, they should have a place. Ada Yoim, in every Chabad house around the world, you're dealing with 3,000-4,000 places. There's a public Seder for 50 people, 100 people, 20 people, or in Nepal, 3,000 people. He wanted everybody to have a place. And it initiated around the whole world. And he himself didn't have even one person at a Seder. Not one person. Not a child, not an adult, not a friend, not a family, not a chassid. Not one person by the Seder. And the Gemara says there should be somebody to ask questions. If there's nobody there, you ask yourself. So I thought about it then, it seemed very sad to me. Everyone in the world has a Seder. Homeless Jews find a place to go. Yeah, who doesn't have a place for a Seder? Even secular people, they go to somebody. And here, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, not one person had a Seder. Literally, there was a guy, Schellenberg Gansberg, who also wanted to stay. The Rebbe said, just leave everything and you go, and I'll take care of everything, the food and everything. He sent everybody away. And I told this woman, for years I wondered about this. I thought about it then, and it stayed. I had no answer. And then I said, now you tell me a story. I think I know. Maybe I know. And that is, a real Manig Yisrael, a real leader of the Jewish people, has to think about every single Jew. Not about certain types, every single Jew. And the Rebbe knew, perhaps, that sometimes there's a person who makes a Seder themselves. So there's nobody there. There's literally nobody there. And it's difficult and it's challenging. They wanted to have children. They wanted to have a family. And there's nobody there. You're there completely yourself. And they might feel that Seder was worthless, valueless, nothing. Nirtza, what was there? You sat yourself, verhakt, disappointed, frustrated, angry, furious. Your whole life was taken away from you. That's what you feel like. This is a Seder, this is Man Cheruseno. And perhaps a real Manig Yisrael needs to be able to experience that. And be able to be there for you in that way. And to be able to give a message, I also had a Seder myself. And trust me, I told her the Lubavitcher Rebbe's Seder was a Seder. Trust me, God was at the Seder. Trust me, it was a Seder. Trust me, it was Pesach. Every Seder is a Seder, but trust me, his Seder was a Seder. Himself, but his Seder was a Seder. And that empowers you. Your Seder was a real Seder. I don't know, the greatest Seder, not the greatest, maybe it was the greatest Seder, but it was a real Seder. And you should just know that. Don't question that. Don't question that even for a moment. What that man did, asad litin es hadin to you. But your Seder was a real Seder. That's it. That's what happened. So I think it's all part of the same point, Okay. Yeah. Very. It was very comforting for her. Huh? No, it was in the Jewish Museum. It was in the Jewish Museum. In the Brooklyn Museum.
Maybe do the same last half hour for the women today. Seder right around.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea. You should call your Chibnach.
It's like you said, our biggest sin is thinking that we're disconnected.
Yeah. The greatest sin is that you feel you're disconnected and you can't be happy now, and the God is not here, and you're in a horrible situation, and the marriages and the dumps and the families and the dumps, and there's no Pesach, and there's no Seder, and the kids are not from, and they don't care about Yiddishkeit, and they don't care about God, and nobody cares in this. And with that attitude, there's no simcha. With that attitude, I'm never experiencing Yom Tov. I'm experiencing an imaginary Yom Tov that could have been, would have been. And yes, of course we have disappointments, and of course we may have made mistakes. I may have made mistakes how I raised my family, and I made mistakes in my marriage, and I have made mistakes in my life. Yeah, of course. Doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes. I'm not saying that everything I did was perfect. I'm saying, but God is always here right now. Right now there's a Gilui Ein Sof, and the Alul could come back to the Ilah. The Ben could come out of Shivya.
And the first Shema, when you were in Florida and you thought that God wasn't there, that's why we...
The Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov's Vart. How do you know that Vart?
I came to enough of your classes, I think.
The first Shema. The Baal Shem Tov's first Shema. The Gemara in Brachas. The first Shema. So yeah, if I made a mistake, I have to fix my mistake. And if I have to apologize, I apologize. But that's the point. In my mistake, I could find a way to fix, and I could find a way to apologize, and I could find a way to do what I have to do right now. And right now, there's simcha. Right now, there's simcha in the world. A child has left captivity, and the father and mother want to see him. And that means me here, right now, this year, Tovshnai and Test, not just somewhere in Galicia or in Poland or in Lithuania or in Hungary 300 years ago. That's why when people tell stories, sometimes people will tell stories. The Baal Shem Tov Seder, and the Rebbe Melech Seder, and the Kedushas Levi Seder, and the Seder, and then the El Tezayda Seder, and this one Seder, right? And they're beautiful, beautiful stories. But the stories have to have one point, one conclusion, and that's your Seder too. You're not that person, and you're not doing the same miracles like them, and you're not in their Madrega, you don't have their Kedusha, and you have a bigger Yetzer Hara than them. That's all true. But God is alive. God is alive. And if God is alive, and it's real now. It's not real in Galicia and in Russia 150, 250 years ago, or in Mitzrayim 3,000 years ago, and Eretz Yisrael 2,500 years ago.
But and having this also helps with you being able to apologize, being able to recognize your mistakes.
Of course. You grow from this. This is where you grow from.
It's an all-year thing. Just on Pesach, we have that energy to...
There's a special gilui of, as he says, that the olul could be miskarif to the ilah. V'tehi hasimcha g'doyla. Behigalois nigla oir ha'ila lav malmayla. The herst, huh?
Thank you for the share today. This is like
Yeah, it's great.
3 weeks. Pesach's gonna come right before you even have time to process it. And I had a little, we learned. I thought maybe some shot. Eizichochim alignment. Eizichochim alignment called Odom. Everybody has in the Odom Karman. And it's the godliness that we learn from Mikol, Odom, whatever Odom they have.
Yeah, very good.
We got the Levincha is that
Also you. Yeah. But you always have to know your audience. You don't know your audience, how could you speak to them? Yeah. You have to speak to your child, wherever your child is. You want to know where your child is, you want to know where your child should be, and then you could connect. But if you don't know where your child is, woo! I find people are so stressed from their Seder because a guy tells me that he had so much Torah and nobody was interested. And he felt so bad. He's a good man. He said, I had so much beautiful Torah and nobody was interested. So you understand, he created a parallel Seder in his own mind that didn't materialize. And it ruined him. It ruined his Pesach. He was so upset. I mean, he got over it.
Speaking about any of this stuff at 9:30?
I just spoke about it today.
I can send you the link to today's class.
Got to know him.
Rabbi Steiner, I send you a link.
I go to brother. He's so Metzorah.
No. So what happens is, yeah. Of course, you want to say Torah and share beautiful vertlich and inspiring ideas and nigla and chassidus and Allah and Musa machshava, whatever the derech Messiah is. But the most important thing is to be there with the people, with menucha, with simcha. And simcha means embracing, accepting the reality in a very deep place.
So you could be a Seder which is totally, in a way, Matzah is boring. You've been to that same Seder for 100 years. Not by mine, but my brother-in-law's, which is very much. And there you could...
Well, the Arizal says you should say the Haggadah with simcha and with B'kol Ram. Try to talk about a Mitzrayim that you want to go out of, and then it'll be meaningful. It won't be monotonous. I was once at a Seder, and I asked the Olam at the Seder if everybody could share one or two Mitzrayims that they have in their life, things that really limit them and confine them.
Which part of
And they want to,
Yes, during the meal or before?
No, during the Haggadah. Yeah, if everybody could just 60 seconds describe, if they feel comfortable, of course. Not if it's some dark secret, they don't want to share it. Because there was a lot of people, there were 20 people. Share one or two things that confine them, that really limit them. It's their Mitzrayim. And they feel enslaved by. And they really would love to get the help from Hashem and from themselves to get out of it.
That's good, but that's my answer.
And trust me, it was not a monotonous Seder.
Yeah, that's right.
It elevated it to a place of very deep honesty. Now, when you have 4-year-olds that you say that, I don't know if this is the way to go. That's not,
Or they might be brutally honest with you.
Where they may be brutally honest. Yeah. Yeah. But I wonder if a father or mother get up and tell their children, this is a Mitzrayim that I'm struggling with. And, obviously it has to be things that are appropriate. Children don't have to know always about every struggle that every parent has. Very good. I'm trying to get rid of you, right? But these types of conversations, again, age appropriate. I'm not giving you a rule what a Seder should look like. That's the point. V'gada levincha. The point is this: it's not. There's no strict system. What you say, what you don't say, but it's about connecting. But these types of conversations automatically make a Seder not monotonous. You know what I mean? We have to really, I think, compose I don't know Haggadah, but just a manual for really just like what to do, what not to do in a very real way, like not Titus and more Titus and more Titus.
You're an editor?
Editor.
I usually, not usually, sometimes I shared one story with them that made such an impression that every time they remember it. And the story was that when I was in Russia, we decided to have a Seder for all of my friends who didn't know anything about the word Haggadah. They didn't know the word Pesach. They didn't know the word Metzorah. They didn't know. And the way we did Haggadah, the only source we had, one of us had an encyclopedia, Jewish encyclopedia of Berghaus in the front. Yeah, it was a Jewish encyclopedia. Yeah. And in that Jewish encyclopedia, there was a text of Haggadah. And I remember we were sitting on the floor. Everybody was sitting on the floor because there was no seats, and reading from encyclopedia the text of Haggadah. And that made such an impression for everyone because everybody didn't know. Nobody knew what's going on. Once we read the text, and everybody had triggered thoughts and stuff like that, it was the most mesmerizing Pesach I've ever had.
How old were you?
I was probably 19.
So there was no Haggadah. Whose idea was this?
So it was my friend's idea.
To take out the encyclopedia.
To take out encyclopedia because I was looking for text of Haggadah. I had a Seder, but reading it in Hebrew was for the Olam was useless. So he found encyclopedia of Berghaus. It was not Jewish encyclopedia. It was an encyclopedia of Berghaus in front. It was an old Russian encyclopedia.
Wow.
Text there, Haggadah.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.